So we disassemble some of these components here in the dash, and we have our gauge cluster, and there's going to be 2 screws on either side. Those are going to be Phillips again. On this one here, I do believe we had 2 screws left because one of them was removed when we removed the bezel. Somebody's installed a toggle switch here for, you know, whatever. Could be for a kill switch, could be for extra lighting. It's actually not in use right now in this vehicle, so I'll have to disconnect this out of here as well. In my case, the stereo was bolted in with 2 10mm screws right there. Down here, I do believe we had 3 screws that were holding in our temperature control. And then on this one here, we had either, I think 2 screws left holding this in, because again, one of them was removed when we removed that bezel for the lighting for the gauges. Now that we've got all those disconnected from the dash, we can do the electrical disconnects on all of those, and we can get them out of the way and then move forward. I guess we forgot to remove our information center, so there's just 3 screws on there. 1, 2, 3 Phillips screws. Remove those, unplug that, remove that. That was just down in here. So now that we've got all our components out of the dash, the next thing is the dash itself. Under here, we could remove this bracket here, and then we got these 2, and that's 2 10mm. This one here, likely 10mm as well. And then we could drop our steering column down. And then for the, basically for the dash assembly itself, as I look under here in the center, we've got 2 here. Those are 13. And then we've got another 2 down here. But if you look, this is the dash part here. This is the cradle it's kind of in. So there's another 2 on the front face. So those are 13mm as well. So I think you can remove these 2 front ones. 1 here, 1 on the other side. And then these 2. And I think that disconnects the center. If we look on the other side, we'll just see heater components over there. We don't see that bracket over here on the passenger side. That's just some of the heat going to the floor there from the heater assembly. So I think there's 4 bolts there, 2 in the front, 2 on the driver's side. That'll get the center portion. Now down in here, probably can't see it, it's behind the wire here, but where my finger's pointing, there's going to be a bolt in there. I do believe that's another 10mm passenger side close to the door. Along the top here, we're going to have 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 over on the driver's side. Those are 4 on the top, 10mm I think. And down here over on the driver's side, there's a 10mm deep down in there. So I do believe that's all the bolts we got to target to take this dash out. So I think we got the dash broke free here. There was a few more bolts for our pleasure to remove. There was 1 in each corner right here. Those are bolts, and then those were nuts. So we had 4 along the top of the center, and then we got 1 in each corner, both 10mm. Then we had down here, there was a screw, a Phillips screw that went in there, and that just screwed into the HVAC system itself. Over on this side, just above the steering column here, there's a 10mm bolt that goes up. It goes in here, and it screws into there. So that was another extra one that we found that we had to remove. So I just removed this whole bracket. So these 2 bolts, they bolted onto the bottom there, and then these 2 bolt to the basically onto the floor here. Underneath the rug, there's another bracket like this. So here's our bracket that was on the front, and basically these 2 are the screws that go into the floor. Those are going to be hidden underneath this rug here. You got to pull that back and try and get in there. Remove those 2, and then these nuts just go on the top, and those nuts, hard to see, but there's there's 2 studs there, and that's what goes through. So best to remove this whole bracket and get that out of your way. And then also we had this bracket here at the bottom. These are the 2 nuts for the steering column there. So this bracket, these are 2 10 mil, these are also 10 mil. That bracket goes along here. We have our 2 nuts that are holding up our steering column. So now we got everything broke apart here and ready to remove. We still have some connections. We got to disconnect all this stuff here and a few extra things. I have a cab warmer that's tie wrapped to stuff. We got to break that free. I do believe the steering column wiring will be good, I hope, because it's separate from the dash. Maybe not, but we got to disconnect all this wiring here. This is where you're going to need to prepare yourself. There's a lot of electrical to disconnect on here, and it's not exactly easy to do. We started off with down here, we have all these electrical connections here. I started by disconnecting them, and then there was way too many, and I decided to just unbolt the assemblies. So right here, there's 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's for the body control module. And then there's this one here, which I don't know what the name of it is, or if it's part of the body control module, but there's a lot of plugins that go into it. And there is 4 screws on that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's gonna screw in here. So remove those, that drops down, everything starts to look good. We have this wire here that goes to the steering column, disconnected that. There's going to be some that get basically pulled off of the bottom of here, for example. So you'll pry those off the bottom. You'll disconnect your OBD reader, whatever you find under there, disconnect that from the frame of the dash. So up top here we have our tweeter. We got to unplug that. We find our wiring in here. This one here is plugged into there. You got to disconnect that. You got to remove your plug for your gauges. It slides into here, so you remove that from there. And then your wiring that's tucked in, your wiring is going to be tucked in around here and fastened to there. You're going to have to disconnect that from the back side. Not exactly easy to do. And this is the mess over here. So working your way along, this in here gets bolted. It's fastened. It's basically fastened up in here, like up in there. And there's lots of screws and there's some bolts, and that'll disconnect in there. You have, I do believe this one here might be the plug-in for the airbag on the passenger side. This is kind of where things get hairy, because got to disassemble some of this air ducting to get it stuff and remove it. And one of the bad ones is this stuff here. So this is for the radio, and in my case it comes up through here and then it went in through there. So I had to disconnect this stuff, and I got to work at unwrapping that, because it's all wrapped inside the frame of the dash here. So that's got to be all unhooked. We have a connection right here that gets unplugged, and that is for our daylight sensor. What I had to do here was had to remove these 2 screws, put the screwdriver in there, try to create some space in there, and I basically, this plug that goes into the tweeter on this side, I had to, and here it is here, I had to pull that out from back in here. There's a slot like in here that it comes out of, and then there's these one here and one there, and those are these little white clips that are holding it in there. So had to work at getting that out, and in order to do that, I had to remove some of this air ducting and stuff like that. So at this stage of the game, I do believe we have all the wiring disconnected. We will give a double check, get it all off of the dash, and then we can pull the dash out.